At a wedding packed with silk, champagne, and silence, she stormed across the ballroom, screamed in my brother's face, and drove her heel into his chest. Then she flipped his wheelchair, slammed him into a table, and dared anyone to stop her. I didn't flinch. I didn't shout. I grabbed a steel chair, swung hard, and folded her to the floor in front of 200 guests. But what happened after that? No one in that room was prepared for. They said we shouldn't come. Not outright no. People like them never say things directly. It was whispered, laced in smiles, and sealed with polite venom. It might be overwhelming, someone had said, with all the lights and the noise, for him. By him, they meant my little brother, 13 years old, battered by a brain injury at birth, bound to a wheelchair like it was a sentence he didn't deserve. But he smiled when he heard about the wedding, smiled like the world hadn't crushed him yet. The bride, Hannah, had been his physical therapist years ago. She taught him how to sit upright, how to hold a flower without dropping it, and she never once flinched at his stutter, his tremors, or the fact that he couldn't say thank you properly. She invited us personally, not out of pity, but out of love. So when I wheeled him into that ballroom, past golden walls and marble floors, I ignored the stares. The women in champagne-colored dresses, the HOA members with their manicured lips and half-laughs. I knew their type. I grew up watching them. They measured worth by posture, speech, fabric. And by that measure, we were ghosts crashing a royal banquet. Still, we came prepared. I had pressed his white shirt the night before, slicked back his hair, folded the flower he was going to hand the bride inside a box lined with velvet. He held it like a knight guarding a relic. His hands shook, but his eyes didn't. He looked up at me right before we entered the main hall. "Do I look okay?" I knelt down beside him, straightened his lapel, met his trembling eyes, and said, "You look like the best man." He smiled, the kind of smile you see once in a lifetime. And I didn't know it then, but that would be the last time he smiled for a long, long while. The ballroom doors opened like the unveiling of a stage. Gold chandeliers dangled like frozen fire above us. Violinists whispered Vivaldi into the air, and people sipped champagne behind expressions too polished to be real. Every movement was choreographed, except ours. My brother's wheelchair squeaked softly over the marble floor. I could feel the heat of glances slicing through us like we were an oil stain in a pool of cream. We moved forward anyway. Hannah saw us first. Her eyes lit up. She waved discreetly from the far end of the hall, where the wedding party gathered near the flower arch. He waved back, careful not to drop the box. Then, she entered. Karen Whitmore. The name hit my spine before her heels did. Stilettos. Silver, sharp as her tone. Her gown shimmered like liquid ice. Her hair, a perfect platinum helmet. Her mouth? Already twisted into a scowl so subtle it was meant only for those beneath her. Like us. She strutted past the champagne fountain, scanning the room like a predator looking for weeds among roses, and when her gaze landed on my brother, her face soured. "What is that doing here?" she hissed to a man beside her. He glanced nervously, but said nothing. Karen moved closer. Too close. I straightened instinctively, but stayed silent. My brother kept smiling, unaware of the storm shifting toward him. Karen bent down slightly, voice dipped in venom. "You really thought this was the place for a pity prop?" I blinked, my fists clenched. "He's here for the bride," I said, low but firm. "Like everyone else." Karen straightened slowly, nostrils flaring. Her laugh was soft, cruel. "This isn't a shelter. This is a wedding. My nephew's wedding. We don't parade liabilities." I stepped between them. "Say that again," I growled. "No," she snapped. "I'll do better." She turned her heel, her gown slicing the air behind her, but not before brushing past my brother's chair, hard, deliberate. His flower box slipped. He caught it. Barely. My chest burned. I moved beside him, lifted the box and put it back into his shaking hands. "You're okay," I said through my teeth. Just hold tight. You're stronger than she'll ever be. He nodded, but Karen wasn't done. From across the hall, she sneered over her shoulder. Keep your circus animal on a leash or I'll have someone escort him out. And just like that, every guest in earshot turned away. No one said a word. Not one. I swallowed the fury clawing its way up my throat. Not yet, I told myself. Not yet. But it's coming. If watching someone hurt your sibling like that would have broken you too. Comment 1. Let me know I'm not the only one who felt fire in their chest. The ballroom pressed in like a theater gone silent. My brother sat still in his chair, clutching that velvet-lined box like it was the only solid thing left in the world. His hands trembled. His lips parted, searching for air that had somehow thickened. Karen hadn't moved far. She drifted toward the dance floor, arms crossed, watching us like a hawk that smelled weakness. I didn't blink. I didn't break eye contact. If she so much as breathed wrong, I was ready. Then it happened. The MC called for the presentation of the bride's token, some symbolic gesture, a moment of innocence in the ceremony. That was supposed to be him, my brother, delivering the flower Hannah had once helped him fold with his own 2 hands. A full circle moment. He rolled forward slowly. I stayed beside him. Every wheel turn felt like a heartbeat on glass. And just as we reached the center, Karen stepped in front of him. Deliberate, dead center. Her smile was sharp. Her voice, louder than it had ever been. Sorry, sweetheart, we don't let stray dogs into the spotlight. My brother blinked, confused. He looked up at me. Then she moved. With one swift, venom-laced motion, Karen raised her silver heel and drove it into my brother's chest. The sound was sickening. His body jerked. He fell sideways out of the chair, crashing onto the floor. His head struck the corner of a banquet table with a crack that turned heads too late. I froze for a fraction of a second. Just one. Then everything snapped. Guests gasped. The music stopped. Plates clattered. But Karen just stood there, triumphant. Teach it not to touch my dress next time, she said, brushing invisible dirt off her shoulder. My brother groaned, trying to curl into himself, his arm twitching, eyes glassy. I dropped to my knees beside him. Blood. From his forehead. A growing pool. My hands shook. My vision blurred with heat. Not from fear. From fury. Karen turned to walk away, like she'd swatted a fly. I stood. You think this is done? I snarled, chest heaving. You have no idea what's coming. She didn't look back, and that's when I saw it. She wasn't walking toward the door. She was walking toward his chair. She wasn't finished. I took one step forward. My pulse roared, my fists clenched. One more move, Karen, just one more. Karen reached for the wheelchair like she owned it. She gripped the handles and shoved it backward, metal screeching across marble. One wheel spun wildly before slamming against a table leg. Guests gasped again, louder this time. But no one stepped in. This trash can on wheels doesn't belong here, she spat. I stood frozen for a second. Not from hesitation, from calculation. And then I moved. I didn't shout. I didn't warn. I didn't need to. I walked past my brother, his body still twitching on the floor, blood trickling down his cheek, and grabbed the nearest chair. White painted steel. Heavy. Solid. Karen didn't see it coming. She turned just as I swung the chair into her back, the metal slamming into her spine with a crack that echoed off the chandeliered ceiling. She shrieked, more from shock than pain, before collapsing forward onto the dance floor. What are you doing? She howled, flailing. I didn't answer. I raised the chair again and brought it down on her shoulder. The impact crumpled her like wet paper. Her silver dress tore at the seam. Her heels scraped, kicking helplessly. Still no one moved. They just watched. Watched what happens when evil meets something unshakable. I dropped the chair with a clang beside her. Her breath came in wheezes. Lip bleeding. Mascara smeared. Dignity gone. I leaned down until I was eye level. You call him a liability again, and I'll make sure you eat through a straw. Karen tried to speak, but no words came out. Only a gargle. I grabbed the chair she had thrown and dragged it back to my brother. He was still shaking, still trying to understand. I knelt beside him, lifted him gently, set him back in the seat she had defiled. "You're okay," I whispered. "No one touches you again." Behind me, someone started clapping. Just one person, then another, then more. It wasn't loud. It wasn't explosive. It was quiet, crisp, final. Karen lay crumpled in a puddle of glitter, frosting, and her own arrogance. Her mouth hung open, stunned, and still, no one helped her up. They didn't help her up. Karen lay sprawled across shattered frosting and smeared glitter, her silver gown twisted like aluminum foil in a storm. Her hairpiece had fallen off, revealing thinning roots. She moaned once, high, pathetic, and still, no one moved. Not the ushers, not the family, not even the groom, her own nephew. I stood tall beside my brother. I didn't look away from the wreckage. "That's what happens," I said loud enough for the room to hear. "When you stomp on someone who's already crawling." Someone recorded it. I saw the red light of a phone camera blinking near the back of the crowd. Good. Security finally arrived, but slowly. Too slowly. Like they didn't want to be the ones to break the moment. One man in a black suit leaned toward Karen. "Ma'am, are you injured?" "I was attacked," she hissed, mascara streaking her cheek like war paint. "Call the police. Arrest that man." The security guard didn't move. He looked at me, then at my brother, then back at her. "We have the footage. I suggest you stay seated." The words crushed her louder than the chair ever did. Within 3 hours, the video hit Twitter. By morning, it exploded. HOA Queen Karen gets bodied by brother of disabled boy. He used a chair, and justice was served cold. Karen Down trended for 48 hours straight. People didn't just share it, they celebrated it. Mothers reposted it with captions like, "This is what protection looks like." Veterans commented. Finally, someone stood up. Even a disability rights nonprofit DM'd me privately. "We've waited years for a clip like this." But not everyone was cheering. Karen posted her own official statement the next evening. A grainy vertical video, filmed in her car, complete with fake tears and a neck brace she didn't wear at the wedding. "I've always been a supporter of the differently abled," she sniffled. "But violence is never the answer. I feared for my life. That man, he's dangerous." She added that she'd be cooperating fully with authorities, and had already spoken with her HOA legal team. Of course she had. Then something incredible happened. A former student of hers, a girl named Lana, posted a stitched response to Karen's video. Tears in her eyes, scar on her lip. "She slapped me when I stuttered during a spelling test. In 5th grade. Said I was too stupid to speak in public." And just like that, the dam broke. Hundreds of comments poured in. Former neighbors, ex-tenants, even a grocery clerk who said Karen once threw an expired coupon at his face. Her legacy unraveled like a rotten flag in the wind. And still, I stayed silent, because this wasn't over. Not even close. Would you have stayed quiet, or stepped in like I did? Comment yes if you'd do the same. No, if you think I went too far. Karen wasn't going down without a tantrum. 2 days after the video hit 10 million views, she launched a press conference in the HOA's event hall, an over-decorated space that reeked of potpourri and denial. Local news showed up. 3 reporters, 2 cameras, 1 live stream. She sat at the head of a long oak table, draped in white linen, neck brace cinched tight like a badge of victimhood. Dark sunglasses covered half her face. A pitcher of lemon water gleamed beside her, untouched. I watched the stream on my phone, jaw locked. "I was assaulted," she said, voice trembling with fake fragility. "In front of my family, my community, by a violent man with no respect for law, order, or decency." She paused, let the silence hang, like she expected tears to fall. "All I did was ask a disruptive child to step aside. And now I'm being harassed online, my life threatened, and my reputation destroyed." I nearly laughed. Disruptive child? She stomped on a kid with cerebral palsy and threw his chair across a ballroom. But Karen had one more card to play. She leaned forward and said slowly, "Effective immediately, I will be pursuing full legal action, and I have authorized the HOA to begin internal disciplinary reviews of any residents who supported this act of aggression." It wasn't just about me now. She was weaponizing her authority, punishing neighbors who clapped, who shared the video, who stood by and didn't kneel at her feet. Classic Karen. But then, something cracked. A reporter, young woman, notebook poised, raised her hand. "Ms. Whitmore, did you kick the boy in the chest?" Karen blinked, tightened her jaw. I made a motion to protect myself from a rolling hazard. "He was 13. He was aggressive. He's in a wheelchair." The room shifted. "You didn't answer the question," the reporter pressed. "Did you kick him?" Karen stood, slammed her palms on the table. "I was provoked, and I won't be villainized by internet vultures and brats with disabilities." Silence. Thick. Unforgiving. The HOA president, seated beside her, shifted uncomfortably. Someone in the back started recording on their phone. Again. I smiled. That's when Lana walked into the hall. The former student. The one she slapped years ago. She stood at the back, quiet, calm. "I was 11, she said aloud. She called me a speech defect. In front of the whole class." Karen spun around, face drained of color. "You're not allowed. This is a closed—" But it was too late. The HOA board chair leaned into his mic. "We're calling an emergency meeting, tonight." Karen's voice cracked. "I run this HOA." The board chair looked her dead in the eye. "Not anymore." The emergency meeting was held in the same community hall where Karen used to strut like a queen. But tonight, the throne was gone. Rows of plastic chairs replaced the round banquet tables. Residents packed the room, some curious, others furious. Cameras from local news flickered at the edges. The HOA board sat up front, grim-faced, and in the center chair, flanked by silence. Karen. She still wore the neck brace, the sunglasses, the same smug arrogance, but thinner now, fraying around the edges. I took a seat near the back, arms crossed, eyes locked on her. The board chair, a man named Raymond with decades of HOA tenure, tapped the mic. "This meeting has been called to review the conduct of Karen Whitmore in relation to the incident at the Briarwood wedding 3 nights ago." Karen shifted, already agitated. "Incident?" she scoffed. "You mean the ambush I survived?" Raymond didn't flinch. "You'll have your turn." One by one, witnesses spoke. The wedding caterer, a bridesmaid, the hotel's assistant manager. Each one testified, not just about the chair strike, but about what came before it, what caused it. "She stomped on that boy," the bridesmaid said, voice trembling. "Like he was a spider." Karen barked a laugh. "That boy rammed into my leg. My dress was custom made." Gasps. Someone whispered, "She's still doing it." Then Lana stood again, calmer than ever. "You called me a mistake in front of 20 other kids. That's not a rumor. That's a scar I still carry." Karen rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. People bruise too easily these days. Everyone's a victim now." I stood up. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't scream. "No, Karen. You're not the victim. You're just finally seeing what it feels like to be outnumbered." She locked eyes with me. Her lips curled. "You think you're a hero because you threw a chair? You're nothing. You're just a thug with good PR." "Maybe," I said. "But I protected someone you tried to crush." Raymond raised his hand. "We've heard enough." He looked toward the entrance. "Is he here?" Everyone turned. The doors opened slowly, and my brother rolled in. Clean shirt, suit jacket, bandage still on his forehead. His hands trembled as they pushed the wheels forward, but his eyes were steady. The room fell silent. He stopped at the center aisle, looked up, then did something no one expected. He raised his right hand and gave a single slow nod. The room erupted, not in chaos, but in unity. One by one, people stood, like rising dominoes, like justice answering without words. The entire hall was on its feet, all except Karen. She looked around, panicked. What? What is this? You can't do this to me. Raymond turned to her. You're hereby stripped of all HOA authority, pending further legal investigation. Karen rose, shaking. Her brace now looked ridiculous. I built this neighborhood. No, I interrupted. You poisoned it. And no one clapped. They just watched her crumble, alone. Finally, Karen didn't leave the hall. She fled, shoulders hunched, brace askew, muttering curses no one cared to hear. The automatic doors wheezed closed behind her like a final breath from a dying regime. No applause followed, because this wasn't a victory lap. This was a reckoning. I stayed seated long after the meeting ended. My brother wheeled up beside me, quiet. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. His nod earlier had said everything. We went home that night in silence, but it wasn't the same kind of silence as before. This one had peace in it. Over the next few days, the fallout spread like fire. Karen was officially removed from all HOA authority. Her access to community systems, voting records, even the HOA Facebook group, revoked. And that wasn't the end. Turns out, someone else had receipts. A former treasurer came forward with years of quietly buried infractions. Misuse of funds. Selective enforcement of rules. HOA fines that mysteriously disappeared from records, unless they were levied on people Karen didn't like. People with accents. People in wheelchairs. People like us. Within a week, a class action lawsuit was filed. I wasn't part of it. I didn't need to be. I'd already said what needed to be said, with a chair. But what really stayed with me wasn't the lawsuit. It was the neighborhood, the way things shifted. People waved more. They paused, asked how my brother was doing. One woman, someone who once turned away from us in the HOA lobby, brought him a sketchbook with thick paper and charcoal pencils. I saw his hands shake. But maybe they can still create. He smiled, genuinely, for the first time since the wedding. He sketched for hours that day. No one told him he was broken. No one tried to erase him from the frame. And Karen? She was seen once. Just once. Outside the grocery store, leaning on a cane that looked more like a prop than a necessity. She tried to enter, but people stepped around her like fog. No hellos, no nods, just space. She dropped a box of cereal. It rolled under the aisle shelves. No one helped her pick it up. A small part of me pitied her, not for the consequences, but for the soul-rotting ego that brought her here. A kingdom of control, reduced to silence and empty aisles. Back home, my brother drew something that made me stop cold. It was a chair, the same one I used that night. But in the sketch, it wasn't raised in the air. It was upright, resting, peaceful. Why the chair? I asked. He looked at me. His voice was soft but clear. Because you didn't do it to hurt her. I blinked. Then why? He smiled. You did it to protect me. And just like that, my breath caught. Because he was right. That chair wasn't violence. It was a shield. It was everything she tried to take, turned back against her. And now it was art. A month passed. The story faded from headlines. The hashtag slowed. The lawsuits entered their glacial crawl through the system. But in our neighborhood, the silence Karen left behind was still echoing. No one filled her role. No one even mentioned her name. The HOA board began meeting in public again, without fear, without rules written in venom. A new sign went up at the clubhouse entrance. Community means all of us. It was cheesy, but it meant something, especially to my brother. He was drawing every day now. Portraits, landscapes, quiet things. I watched him create beauty from hands that once shook under judgment. That was Karen's real defeat. Not the chair. Not the votes. The life she couldn't ruin. But fate wasn't done with her. Not yet. I didn't expect to see her again. And I certainly didn't expect it to be outside a gas station on the edge of town. It was late afternoon. The sky was bruised with gray clouds, and wind chased trash across the pavement. I had just stepped out with a bag of snacks when I saw her. Karen. She sat on the curb beside Pump 6, her cane leaning uselessly against her leg. Her shoes were scuffed, her dress was wrinkled. The neck brace was gone, replaced by dark circles and a hollow look that didn't beg. It surrendered. A grocery bag had torn beside her. A box of crackers spilled into a puddle. She was staring at them like they were a galaxy away. For a second, she didn't see me. And for a second longer, I didn't move. I could have kept walking. I could have stepped over her like she did my brother. I could have said something cruel, something final. But I didn't. I just stood there. She finally looked up, and I'll never forget the look in her eyes. It wasn't hate. It wasn't even shame. It was emptiness. The kind that comes when you've built your life on fear and control, and watched it all burn. She opened her mouth, but no words came out, and neither did mine. Instead, I stepped to the side, reached down, picked up the crushed box, set it gently on the curb next to her. That's it. No speech, no revenge, no forgiveness either. Just an end. She didn't thank me. I didn't wait. I turned and walked back to my car. But before I got in, I looked back one last time. She was still staring at the crackers, still lost. That night, I came home to find my brother waiting on the porch. He looked up, curious. "Did you see her?" I nodded. "Was it bad?" he asked. I paused, then shook my head. No. It was over. He didn't smile. He just exhaled, like he'd been holding something in. Then he wheeled back inside. The chair I had used that night, the one that changed everything, it still sat in our garage. My brother had painted it. Not gold, not red, just white. Clean, untouched, peaceful. He said it was a symbol now, of boundaries, of protection, of the line no one gets to cross again. I didn't argue. I just sat in it once in a while, when the nights got too loud, because sometimes the most violent act you can commit is refusing to become them. This story wasn't about a wedding, or a chair, or even Karen. It was about a line that too many people cross every day when they mock someone for being different, when they hurt someone who can't fight back, or when they stay silent because it's easier than standing up. For a long time, I stayed behind that line. I told myself it wasn't my fight, that maybe people like Karen would just burn themselves out eventually. But then she touched my brother, and suddenly that line wasn't theoretical anymore. It was personal. It was bleeding. It had a name. Justice doesn't always wear a robe or walk into courtrooms. Sometimes it looks like a man grabbing a chair in a ballroom full of cowards. But the real justice, it came later. It came in the silence after the applause. It came when people stopped turning away from my brother and started turning toward him. It came in the small things. The sketchbook someone brought him, the way a stranger knelt to tie his shoe, the look in his eyes when he realized he was seen. And maybe that's the point, that when you stand up, not just for family, but for anyone being stepped on, you do more than fight back. You shift the room. You make it clear that cruelty won't be ignored anymore. So if you're watching this and there's someone in your life who's been hurt, overlooked, mocked, or made to feel like less, be their chair. Be the thing that stops the fall, that blocks the next blow, that says, not here, not them, not on my watch. If this story hit you in the heart, I want to hear it. Drop a comment below. Tell me what moment in this story stayed with you the most. And if you've ever stood up for someone when no one else would, type, I did. Let's fill this comment section with real people who still believe in doing what's right. And if you're new here, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Because trust me, the next one might hit even harder.